Welcome in, everyone. I'm happy to see you all. I hope you're just as happy to see me because we have something pretty interesting and wild to talk about today, and that is the government essentially formally acknowledging something we've discussed many times right here on this channel, and I cannot wait to get into it with absolutely all of you. But before we do, what are we going to do? I need you guys to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment below with your thoughts. That's the greatest way to help the video get out there. That helps raise all the stories of veterans and people who served this nation and served our allies to get their stories out there. That's what we want to do, and that all starts with you guys. We just had the Tim Kennedy one blow up, and that's not because of me or anything special I did. That's because you guys came in and played such a pivotal role. So now a little drum roll. I'm going to do a little drum roll. I don't know if you can hear that on the mic. I am so excited to talk about what we're going to talk about today for many, many reasons. And I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to be dunking on people a little bit here. So if you're a woke person or you're a snowflake or easily offended, this video is probably not the one for you. If you are interested in American history, politics, and the truth, then guess what? You've come to the right place. We're going to talk today about the United States government, essentially for the first time in the history of its existence, acknowledging the fact that there are female members of Delta Force, something the United States government has never done before, but has now done. What am I talking about? What do I mean? Because I've had so many people on here, the Medal of Honor winners who are all now serving on Reddit, the Silver Star recipients who are now all serving on Twitter, who have more combat experience than everyone I've ever interviewed combined. These war heroes on social media have told us forever that there's not one woman in Army Special Operations, nor will there ever be a woman in Army Special Operations. They ignore people who actually came from the unit. They ignore people who actually came from Delta Force who have talked about their experience with women at the Tier 1 level. They think they're experts. Hold on. They ignore all the people who actually served at a Tier 1 level. They think they're experts. They think they know more. And lo and behold, what happens? The Army's official website, and I kind of made a mistake with this when I was posting about it on Instagram. By the way, you can follow me on Instagram. It's linked in the bio section, but it's David_Hookstead. Hope to see you all there. I made a slight mistake with this myself, but the Army published an article a day or two ago on the official Army military website talking about women in the Special Mission Unit at Fort Liberty, previously Fort Bragg, North Carolina. Well, what is the Special Mission Unit at Fort Liberty / Fort Bragg, for those of you who still call it that? That is, of course, none other than Delta Force. And what made this so shocking is that it wasn't just an article about women serving in Delta Force. There were multiple photos released by the United States government, cleared for release, that went through the vetting process, that then were released in this piece of female members of Delta Force, which has never happened before. I want to stress this. It has never happened before. It is the first time in the history of the United States Army that photos of female members have been released for public consumption. That means someone took them, someone screened them, the public affairs officer had to sign off on it, likely a lawyer had to sign off on it, and then those photos, for the first time in American history, were released to the public. It's an incredible moment. And what's stunning about it is I've spent 4 or 5 years doing the podcast, talking about the military, and I can't count how many people I've had tell me that no such women exist. I've had so many people come into the comments here and tell me that there's no women in Delta Force. And then they make some snide-ass remark about cooking and cleaning. And there's no women. I was in whatever unit, and I can promise you there's no women. So is it a hoax? Did the U.S. government lie to everyone? Did the former Delta Force members who have talked about female members in the unit, did they lie to everyone? Are the photos fake? No, of course not. It's been real. It's been real going back to, at a minimum, the 1990s. And we know that because Bob Porras talked about being with a female over in Europe that he referred to not as support, but as a shooter. Let's watch that video clip right now for anyone who hasn't seen it before.
A very dynamic environment that we were in out there. Because I'd be in civilian clothes, in the front seat of these cars, and then we get to a place and get my uniform back on and jump in the, assault positions and wherever, the team was at. So it's kind of neat. And we did that. We did that from mid to late 90s.
I got to ask because it's so rare you see it in a photo like that. And I know her face is blacked out, and I would never ask you to give someone's name. But I think a lot of people would be surprised by that photo because there's a woman in it. And maybe they think, why is there a woman with these commandos? What's the explanation for why you have a woman in a situation? Was she an American? Things of that nature.
Yeah, she's our teammate. Yeah, and she had language capability out there too. So,
Gotcha.
to benefit us, so in our clandestine side, right, when we're working that way, um, you're least likely to suspect a couple, or if it's a woman more than a man, right, to be a bad actor or somebody that doesn't belong, right? So we adopted that back then in those days. So we had women assaulters. They were a part of another group that I don't want to say was in support of the squadrons, but um, there obviously wasn't a lot of them. So the core of the women that were doing that would go to whatever squadron was deploying, right? So they work with everybody. And this one happened to have the language out there, Serbo-Croatian. And so she was talking to the checkpoints and the folks at the checkpoints and all that stuff. So yeah, that's helped out. She's a shooter just like the rest of us.
That's incredible. Hey, good for her. And I see some people who get so confused, or maybe it's just I don't have a good word for it, but I've seen debates about that before. I've heard other guys discuss it. And it's like some guys can't wrap their head around that. And it's like, do you not think there's some badass women out there? I guarantee you that there absolutely is.
Absolutely. And there you go. There's one, right?
There you go. And I'll that photo, if you haven't seen it, you can find it on Bob's Instagram. It is such a casually badass photo. I mean, the whole thing is awesome. And like you said, your former teammate who was killed in '05. I actually interviewed one of the guys
Yeah.
that survived. He was seriously injured, but survived that explosion that they hit. I do want to talk now.
So again, don't take my word for it. That's Bob's word. Now, I'm going to throw up the photos here so you can see them on the screen of the female members of Delta Force as we continue talking and breaking this down a little bit. Now, here's another thing to consider. Well, let me make this point while you're looking at these photos. I initially said the Army released the full article. That was inaccurate when I said that initially on Instagram. The Army released the photos and then published the article on its official website, which about is as close as you can get to a formal recognition of women in Delta Force. Because remember, the Army in the United States government doesn't even really come out and talk about Delta Force. They've never talked about the women in it before. And now all of a sudden they have. So it is a watershed moment. It is crossing the threshold. We are in a new era now where these photos are out there. The public now knows about women in Delta Force. And I want to make it clear. Just because a woman is in Delta Force does not mean she went through OTC. This is a huge thing. People get so confused online, even though I feel like we've talked about it many times before. Going through OTC is what you do if you want to become an assaulter, and then eventually there's other jobs you can take with experience. We've seen many guests on the show take that route, do that path. There's other jobs to be filled. There's other squadrons. There's other roles women can play. Now, I'm not going to get into the nitty-gritty details here, but the fact of the matter is there are many different jobs women in the unit in Delta Force do, whether it's intel, whether it's recon, whether it's anything that would require a woman slipping undercover. Maybe they need to go to an area where a bunch of men by themselves would draw some, suspicion. In Bob's example that he gave, that woman was fluent in the language that they were speaking in the country. I believe they were in Bosnia. She could speak the language of the people. Obviously, that's an incredible asset, and she's a unit-trained female. Okay? And again, Bob called her a shooter, not support. Now, again, doesn't mean she went through OTC. Doesn't mean that she was ever on an assault squadron. I think he talks about how they're farmed out when they need them. There's a small group. They take them wherever they do. The other thing I want to point out is don't get this confused with the cultural support team. Cultural support team is essentially augmented to the Rangers, Green Berets, Delta. Well, actually, I don't know if Delta actually has CSTs. So don't quote me on that. I know SEAL Team 6 has used CSTs in the past, and everyone from one of those units has good stories about the cultural support team, and they have negative stories about the cultural support team. To each their own. I know a woman who was in it. I've heard great things about her. I know another woman that was in the next elevated level, if you will, and she's an American badass as well. But that's not what these women are. And I want to be crystal clear on that. The women that you hear guys in the unit talk about are not CSTs. They're not CSTs who are just augmented to the unit. Those exist in the special operations world. That's not who they're referring to. That's a very important distinction. It's a key thing to talk about because I don't want there to be confusion. These are not women who are augmented to the unit. These are full-fledged members of Delta Force doing specific jobs that they are trained for. They go through their own selection and assessment program to serve it at the unit. So to everyone who told me and a couple other people we didn't have any idea what we were talking about and we were all idiots, and I guess that, it's just in crazy unhinged conspiracies. They said the Delta guys who talked about it, they didn't know what they were talking about. To everyone who said that, I want you to come in the comments right now and apologize and admit you were wrong. I've been saying it for years. And I've had to deal with the trolls telling me I didn't know what I was talking about. As if I can't pick up the phone and make one phone call and find out whether or not rumors online about women in Delta is actually true or not. Do you all really think, to all the haters, critics, and losers out there, do you really think I can't get on the phone with someone and get that answer in 5 minutes if I want to? The answer is yes. It's not like it's a top national security secret. It's sensitive, I believe. It's obviously not classified anymore. They released the photos. What are we even talking about here? So I want you, everyone, the people who believed it the whole time and now the people who are eating a lot of crow, jump in the comments. Let me know what you think about females, women being in Delta Force, what roles you think they serve, what roles you think they should serve. And then let me know in the comments, do you think we'll ever actually see a woman on an assault squadron? I think that would be a fascinating discussion. I'm not going to give my opinion one way or the other, but I would love to hear your opinions. If you've made it this far in the video, it means you like what you're seeing, you like what you're hearing. So do me a favor, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and please comment with your thoughts. Let's stir the debate up. Let's hear everyone's opinions. It's now official. There are women in Delta Force. The photos were released by the United States government. The debate is over, and I'm going to call this a victory for the people who've been saying it for years.